Hey Faith Church, Merry Christmas. Today for service, join Evan, Courtney, Nate, and I in a bonus episode of our podcast as we discuss the series and how we've been processing peace in this time. We hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Live to Give podcast. My name is Jacob and I'm the producer of said podcast. And this is our bonus Christmas episode and we are glad that you are here. With me today we have, as usual, Evan, Courtney, Nate. How
as
are you
usual.
this morning?
That sounds a little... I felt like it should have been like, we're surprised with the presence of.
Oh, yeah.
Why would we be surprised with the presence of our hosts?
Because we're that good.
We are.
Are you excited that we're here?
I am very excited.
Okay,
And
right.
it's Christmas.
It is Christmas. It is literally, when this airs, it will be Christmas Day.
Yeah. And people are watching at
Yes.
home possibly right now. This is also a video podcast.
Yep.
And yeah, this is pretty exciting.
It is
We
exciting.
even have decorations.
We do.
We're actually at Kirk's house in his living room.
He's still asleep. He doesn't know we're
Yeah, he
here.
doesn't
No
know,
clue.
yeah.
But his living
Yeah.
room is beautiful. It's modeled after our
Right.
prayer room / mother's room.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So where we got the idea.
yeah. It's a beautiful setting.
Yep.
But actually, to tell the truth, Jacob set this up.
I
and
did.
It looks
He did.
great.
Thank you.
It looks
I was
great.
hoping for hanging candle lighting, but
Yeah.
Yes. Bring it in
you know,
here.
that is a process. Didn't have time to do that 2 hours ago.
for those of you who don't know, Ashley and her team put that together in our sanctuary.
Absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
And it was
Looks
so
amazing.
beautiful.
Ridiculous. It's so cool.
Every week I hear comments. And we also have rocking chairs if you want to
do.
join us.
We
That's
do.
really fun.
Courtney, this last week, was in a specifically small rocking chair.
Oh.
I was. My feet could touch, so that was
Oh,
exciting.
that's
for me.
exciting. Yeah.
I don't often. My
Yeah.
feet don't touch when I sit in a chair. I'm vertically challenged, so it
Like
was
the
nice.
chair you're sitting in right now.
Yeah. You can't see my feet, but they are a good 6 inches off the
They
floor.
are.
So, no lie.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, I'm short too, but I'm not quite that short.
Yeah.
I'm so tall I take the back off of my chair here because it lets me sit further back.
Right.
Yeah.
You're-
My legs are still super uncomfortable in this chair.
I'm so sorry.
We're only going to
It
be here
is
2
what it is.
hours.
Yeah, it's
2
just
hours.
Kirk's
That's
living
right.
room.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got brisket in the oven. It's good.
Ooh.
You guys like brisket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes,
I do.
Courtney?
Yeah.
I smoked one brisket just,
Oh.
I don't know, 2 months ago. It's only the second one I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
First one didn't turn out super great. It was okay.
Okay.
But brisket is expensive
Oh.
and a little bit finicky to smoke. And so it was gifted to me, a giant brisket. I'm like, I felt like nervous tension. And I smoked it and it turned out fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
It was, oh my God.
So now you're never going to do it again, so you end on a high?
It's intimidating. I'm a little more confident.
Oh, that's good.
I'm
That's
more
great.
confident.
Yeah.
I went to. You have to prove it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great. Someone
So-
get me a brisket.
Oh.
If you got an extra $190 on your notes. But it's like $60
Okay,
for
oh,
like a
that's- yeah.
slab that
With
big.
gas, it's like 200.
Oh man.
Oh, man, that's a great transition. Yeah, this is so great. So, what we're doing today is we are talking about the series that we are in as a church community, and
What's
series.
the name of that series?
I'm getting there.
Oh, I just didn't know.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I was literally about to say it. It is called. We're calling it Home for Christmas. And this series is all about peace, all about finding home again, welcoming us all back into home and into this space of peace. And so to start out, I just wanted to ask everyone, what has been some of your favorite moments of the series, or maybe some thoughts that you've taken from the series? Like, if we're just kind of going through all that. So does anybody want to kick us off?
There's a lot of good stuff.
There is, yeah.
All across the board. I think each week was, I think the overall, here's just one thing that kind of kicks off. The theme is something where we're kind of welcoming back the tradition of what Christmas is, but also with a little bit of a twist where it's like welcoming people back home is also welcoming them to like more of finding and being more of aware of God's presence. And I think that's really neat. So it's not just about our traditions for Christmas, but it's also like, how are we feeling peace? And does home really make us feel peace? And so it kind of brings up a lot of different things. And I think it's really good to figure out like people's stories, like Gwen,
Mhm.
and her story can be does like a perfect job of doing a sermon without actually having a sermon
Yeah,
in some
yeah,
ways.
totally. Yeah.
It's her story. It's really, really
Mhm.
beautiful. So I think that's kind of like setting the tone for the series came out of this idea of home, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because it is a paradox when you look at the invitation that God gives to people, the places Jesus takes people. It is not safe. It's not always peaceful where he
Yeah.
takes them. But the paradox is the presence of God. When you are in it, it is safe. It is
Yes.
peaceful.
Yeah,
so
totally.
the situations, your circumstances may absolutely be honestly dangerous at times. You know, Jesus took teens through Samaria, a dangerous
Right.
area for them. That was not peaceful, but his presence was. And that's been really good for me, refocusing Christmas time and thinking of it that way, where it's like, yeah, it isn't always safe, peace, and comfort, but his presence is always those things. And
Yeah.
that's been really good for me too.
That's great. The thing that I'm kind of been chewing on, well, I've been thinking about the idea of peace specifically in the vein of the Sabbath. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and just like, what does the Sabbath really mean? What does it really look like? What does rest really look like, especially in our society today? It's just full of busy, 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 and I do not want that. I don't want to live like that. It's much too stressful. And so I've just been learning a lot about, so like, what does peace look like in a busy society? What does rest look like in some of the challenging circumstances that we find ourselves in? And and it's been really interesting. I'm reading this book called Sacred Sabbath, and it's by a guy named A.J. Swoboda, and he talks about how Sabbath is originally designed to be a holistic endeavor. So our physical selves, our mental selves, our emotional selves, our spiritual selves all need rest. The earth itself needs rest to flourish. God himself rested on the seventh day, like all of these kinds of things. And so we do ourselves a disservice when we do ourselves and the world and our community a disservice when we do not intentionally Sabbath. And so that's kind of the lens that I've been looking through lately, especially in regard to peace and home. And so it's been interesting to see how this series in particular is sort of informing this idea of Sabbath for me. And so I've just been taking some steps intentionally about, okay, this day is going to be my Sabbath. I'm going to prepare for this day. I'm going to make sure all my chores are done, make sure, I don't know, these things that I need to do are done before that day so I don't have to do them on that day, because then it wouldn't be a Sabbath. And so it's just been interesting to see that relationship for me and how peaceful my life has become as a result. It's been really, really cool.
That's cool. What are some ways that you find Sabbath?
I think an interesting concept is people who tend to have like physical jobs. Maybe it's on their Sabbath. They need to rest from their physical labor, maybe do some mental creative things. I have a very mental job. It's a very mentally taxing job. So I have found that actually using my body on that Sabbath is a nice way to rest, which seems strange. But for me, since I don't like do physical activities terribly often, especially not for work. And so resting from my mental work really is like setting aside my analyzing my job or analyzing or being, even sometimes I'm the creative director. So even being creative can be like overwhelming because I'm always in that brain space. And so taking myself out of that brain space and kind of simplifying what's happening in my head really helps me to rest. And so there are different things that I try to do. Like, honestly, video games is helpful because it's mindless. Like, I don't really have to think about it. It's telling me a story and I'm just playing through a story, and it's really beautiful and I love it. So like, that's helpful for me. Like during the summer, this ideas have been going as far back as the summer for me. And so like mowing the lawn was strangely restful. I usually hate mowing the lawn. I hate it. But I found that doing something menial and simple and just walking with the mower was really, really peaceful.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. But yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is interesting. Yeah, I've been a little bit in the same vein as you, but in a different way because I am more physically active. That's my go-to. Like I don't sit well.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to challenge myself and force myself to try to sit in
That's why we
peace.
had to corner you.
I know, right? I am feeling this too, actually. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Don't bring it up.
No, so I've actually been kind of forcing myself. This is super random. I picked up knitting in the last week and a
You're
half.
a knitter?
Wow.
There you go. Yeah, surprise,
you?
right?
Wait, what are you making right now?
Like
a
knitting
blanket.
socks?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, not that good. Not sock level yet.
Knitting is challenging.
But no, what I had realized was I had knit a blanket back 12 years ago.
Really?
Before my daughter,
Okay, yeah.
John and I were just married.
Uh-huh.
And I used to sit and knit and
Yeah.
watch TV and just be.
Just, exist.
And
yeah.
I've lost that. I had this realization literally 2 weeks ago. We had
Wow.
25 people at my house for Thanksgiving. It was
Yeah.
chaos. And I think coming out of that, I was like, my life is just chaotic and I don't ever rest.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this back up and try to figure it out. So I have, and I'm working on making one. It's one of my favorite blankets that I made 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what sparked it was,
Sure.
you know what? Why don't I do this anymore?
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend and I was like, I never have time to do this. I never have time. And then I realized duh, you're in control of your own time.
Right, right, totally.
Make yourself do it.
Mhm.
So things in the house aren't getting done as much, but I'm
Sure.
actually sitting
Yeah.
for an hour or two a night and
That's
just
so great.
knitting.
Wow.
I know, right?
How old are you again?
So weird. 85.
Okay, yeah. That sounds about right.
You won't be laughing
that's
when you get a
great.
blanket for Christmas.
I will not. I will be very grateful.
I'm looking forward to an Afghan.
Afghan, yeah.
absolutely.
But that's been for me of just trying to make myself sit
so
and
great.
be peaceful, and I
I
actually
love
do
it.
feel a little more calm
Yeah.
internally as
Yeah.
a result. So yeah, another thing for me too during the sermon series, I
Mm-hmm.
wish I've been wanting to reach out to Gwen, and I
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
yet. But she had talked about joy towards the end of her talk, and she had a definition of joy that I loved. It was towards the very end, but it was basically that it's this quiet confidence that Jesus is in control and that he's got this. And it was a great definition. I
Yeah.
wish I had it verbatim here. But I've been processing through the correlation between peace, joy, and hope,
Yeah.
and how I really think they're all very, very connected in each
Yeah.
other. And Jesus brings that. And we talk about wonderful counselor, mighty God, that we can trust him, Prince of Peace. But when we have joy, there's this confidence, and hope is a confidence that it's going to be okay. And peace is sitting in that confidence. And so I've been trying to articulate in my brain, how to put those all together. And I haven't landed yet, but I don't know. I've been in my head about man, all three of those are so close together.
Yeah.
And I think there's something distinct to being a Christ follower
Yeah.
that we can
agree.
experience that we can have those. So that's kind of where my head's
Yeah.
been.
I think what I love, something that really speaks to me as we've been going through this series is kind of when we were doing brainstorming 2 months before this series started, we had talked about this idea of we want to welcome people back home. That really speaks to me, emotionally, even I'm even feeling emotions, just because so often our physical, actual homes are not peaceful. They're not restful. And the world we live in is not peaceful and not restful. And so, to recognize, hey, we recognize home is not always what it needs to be, but we want to welcome you back to this place to remind all of us together as a community that peace is where the presence of God is. And because the presence of God lives in us always, we have the ability to enter into peace as a gift. We get to receive that. And so I just love just that concept. So I know in your talk, you're talking a little bit about one mighty God and mighty God, and how is God mighty when our circumstances don't look like it? What is that? How is that experience for us? And so I wonder if we could just talk about that a little bit. So maybe in our own personal lives, where have you seen God be mighty when circumstances are certainly not great?
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned in your talk, I can't remember which story it was.
Yeah, my dad.
Oh,
has
your dad, yeah.
Parkinson's. Yeah. So I'm kind of living it right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had like my grandma passed, and that was very hard and very real. Like I was there when she passed. But there was also a lot of peace in that moment. Like she was one of the most like courageous Christ followers that I've ever known. So there was peace in that moment too, in sitting there. But I've been even just processing through this of like trusting God and having that peace and that hope, knowing like what's my dad's life going to look like from here on out. You know, like you just never know. Like it really truly is anytime the phone rings of,
Oh, yeah.
did he fall?
Yeah.
Like you just don't know. And so I'm currently working through, like I kind of talked about it in my talk too, of like, what does that look like in the moment? Like trusting God right now. And then I'd like to think I'm going to trust him
Sure. Yeah.
through the end of this
Yeah.
and know that he is the mighty God and that he is the warrior who's fighting for me and is there for me. But it's, setting that groundwork now and realizing, okay, if I can't trust him in the good and in the bad, like trusting him in the bad and trusting him in the good, like through it all, no matter what. So that's kind of, I don't know, it's where my head is at with it all of, I'm walking the hard right now, I feel like. And I try to ignore it. Like that's my go-to. That's why I stay active and busy, because I ignore what's actually there. But
I someday I'll probably talk more about this because it's something I'm just continually chewing on. But similar to kind of what you were saying earlier, like growing up, like home wasn't always safe for me, and for just different reasons. And there was a particular reason when I was 8, and it was really hard to understand God as a mighty warrior during that time. And for me, it was really just coming to the realization that there are tools and resources out there to help you through that journey of understanding God as a mighty warrior. And for me, it was a prayer session. That this thing that happened when I was 8, and the last thing I would have pictured God as being was a warrior in that moment for me. And like the prayer session, I always held God accountable for that moment of my life. And the prayer session was, it allowed me to see Jesus in that moment, in that story. And I got to see how he was being a warrior in that moment through that prayer session. And so encouragement for any of our listeners too, like, jump into different resources that we have here, like a life group or a prayer session and different ministries, because man, that's one way that I was able to understand God as this mighty warrior, like you shared.
Even our last podcast dealt a lot with prayer sessions with Michelle, and she did talk a lot about what that looks like even in her life. So it's good to, if you guys have any questions on prayer sessions, check out that episode too. But I feel like we're all kind of in the midst of it, and I feel like what peace does is it calls out drama. You know, there's a lot of drama in this world, and it attaches itself. And I think it's surprising how much that adds up over time, whether it be through trauma or whether it be just through normal life circumstances. Just like this is a crazy idea, but just bear with me. Yesterday after church, we were driving home, and we witnessed a fat squirrel getting rolled over. One of those, like we're just talking in the midst, and all of a sudden, this squirrel gets hit by a minivan in her own neighborhood. Okay, and this minivan is hauling. I think Karen had some place to be. Okay, and it was hauling, and it rolled over this squirrel, and it started pulling itself. You know, so like one of those. It's like you don't expect those things. You don't expect those things at all, and it can totally change your day. Okay, that's just one instance. Okay, and so then I'm thinking, I gotta re-roll over this thing. That's my thought. Yes, because I don't want it to suffer.
Out of its misery. Yeah.
So what do you do with suffering on top of everything? Okay, so I won't even tell what ended the story, but that's. I feel like we went through COVID. Okay, now we have war. We're literally in the midst of war. Like this is crazy times in the sense of where our peace is, you know? And for us to truly understand what peace looks like, we have to do an inventory of what's happening around. I really think that, and that's where I think a lot of us tend to ignore those areas. I do especially. And I feel like the sign for me is I take everything personally. I do. I just take everything as personal. For no reason. It just attaches. Now, I've also said PTSD doesn't help or all that kind of stuff, but I want to make excuses. I really do. I get worn out. I get tired. I get all kinds of crazy ideas, like you can see with the squirrel. And it's just like, hold up. We have to realize there is a God that came to this world for us. That's the thing. That's the heart of Christmas is that God came to us, found us in our darkness, found us in all the drama, found us when we're trying to pull ourselves on the road like a squirrel.
Oh my!
I know Ashley will like that. Okay,
she will. I just have to say, this is the 5th episode we've talked about dead
Roadkill.
animals
I
or
know.
roadkill.
Peter's coming after
Yeah,
us.
really,
for sure.
Sorry, I apologize. It's worth it.
Yeah,
we just want to be real
that's-
life.
Yeah.
It's quite the image.
Well, they say
Thanks for that.
pastors take, every bit of their life
Right.
for a sermon illustration.
Absolutely.
So
That's true.
that
Later
works.
on, the squirrel buddy brought a nut to his squirrel. Like
Oh.
actual,
Ooh,
yeah, he
his
was.
buddy
Oh, wait, for
squirrel.
real?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's so sad.
It gets sadder.
Oh, so sorry.
So did you
Merry
did you
Christmas.
like
tearing up.
Merry
That's really
Christmas,
sad.
everyone.
did you set up like a lawn chair and watch this
popcorn.
unfold?
This happened in front of our house,
Yeah.
and Becca decided to do Christmas decorating, and so she's watching the squirrel.
Oh.
Squirrel drama.
Yeah, like a
Oh
TV
my
Wow.
episode.
Yeah, it's a horrible day. And we
Yeah.
just got done with church. We were lifted up.
Right.
Our cup was filled, and all of a sudden. yeah,
But
that's
I
what
think
really-
no, you're onto something with that because it's something as little as a squirrel passing, right? It shifted your day,
Yeah.
which speaks to what you were saying earlier,
Yes.
the heightened tension that we feel around everything. And so
Right now
even with
especially.
Christmas coming up, I'm sure so many people, so many families feel this weight right now.
Yeah.
Man, it is heavy. One thing you talking about God sending his son, it brought up all of Gwen's stories for me of God sending angels to her.
Yeah.
And for those of you, in case somebody missed it, she doesn't mean literal spiritual angels. She means people that God used as if they were angels in her life. And it was just incredible. All the stories that she shared, that gave me so much hope, so much faith, so much peace in those types of situations too. For my own self, I immediately thought of people that I know are struggling. I can be like, please go talk to Gwen. She can man, it was just a powerful testimony that she shared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it was.
Sunday.
Yeah, she had said she shared that story with us at Staff Church a while back.
Yeah.
And for some reason that the angel piece never clicked in my brain. I think I was more enamored with her story,
Yeah.
as it was.
And her
so
storytelling.
and her storytelling, her humor, all of that. And so hearing it the second time around, that part stood out to me of that theme of the angels, who are the angels. And for me, it was who are the angels in my life, the people that have stepped in, but then also who am I being that for? Am I open to that opportunity when it presents themselves? Because I think so often in my busyness and in my own mind and my world, I ignore those opportunities, I think, too often. And so that was kind of for me too of man, who am I missing that chance that God's placing this in my life to be hey, go be this person for someone else. And I'm I'm too busy, or I'm not, I've got too much going on in my own life. So just that was kind of what I walked away with that too, of going I need to make sure that I'm open to those opportunities when God places them in my life.
Yeah, for me, I think, sorry.
You will be.
tend, nice. I tend to be a rather pessimistic individual. So to hear her story and the horrors that she experienced, as a child and continuing through her life, it was a really good reminder that there is hope. There really truly is hope. And I can very easily lose sight of that because I don't know, that doesn't feel like there's hope a lot of times. Well, maybe not a lot of times, but I don't know. That's just my natural tendency. I tend toward hopelessness, and I tend toward skepticism and well, if this is the way, it can't change, so whatever, those kinds of thoughts. But it's just a good reminder. And I'm just, in this season of my life, there's something about, for me, being reminded, because we forget so easily. And even I mean, all human history, we forget God's goodness. We forget, like, the Israelites had literal bread falling from the sky, and they forgot who God was and how good he was. And there was a literal pillar of fire they were following, and they forget who God is.
I think that's more of a sign of ADHD. It's been around for a long
time. Long
Whole
time.
nation had it.
I thought yellow food dye number 5 did.
The manna did have that in it.
Yes.
I will say this: when I say "ooh, squirrel," that'll have a different meaning now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, callback.
So sorry.
Full circle.
Yeah.
No, but I just really appreciate her story, and I appreciate her willingness to share her story and to be vulnerable, because that's not an easy story to tell.
No,
Like,
not
oh my
at
goodness,
all. Yeah.
such
Well,
a
one thing
wild.
I think that's been surprising me as even preparing for doing a sermon with Kirk, and even just this passage out of Isaiah 9:6, we're talking, and this is the one area I think that Christmas does more than any other time frame for the Christian calendar, is this is really talking about God's identity, who God is. We don't really do that as much. It's more about what God is doing for us, or our identity in God. This is the one place, the one season of the year where we're actually talking truly God's identity. And it's hard, because if we're talking God's identity, it's beyond ourselves. So we can only put it in human terms,
Right.
which is crazy in itself to think about. But when we do, what we're talking about are these names, and then this action that actually started it all with God coming to earth, which is fascinating. And I think that's the thing that should stop us in our tracks in Christmas, is the fact this is all about who God is. And I think that's what, like, Gwen's story did for me, is it pointed back to who God was and what God did in her life. That's really cool to me.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of hope I need. It's almost like that hope surprises you no matter what. Because you've been going and facing through, like, any dark time, and you're like, wait a second, someone else is too, and they actually seen God's power, and it's who he is. So I don't know. That's really helped me think through this season too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're saying, it just makes you know you're not alone.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in the trenches, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, there are other people in trenches. Not that we wish that on anybody,
Sure,
but
yeah.
at least we know, like, hey, we're not in this dark place alone.
And even to see that, like, hey, you were in the trenches when you were a child, and like all these things, and this is who you are now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The victory.
What a
Yeah.
testament. What a testament.
And the humility yet
Yeah.
confidence of Gwen in her story when she approaches the professor with the IQ scores, and I'm gonna go off track here a little bit, because
Perfect.
this is not
Huge fan.
this is not Christmas content.
Is
but
it about a squirrel?
Yeah, we should probably put a warning on this.
Trigger warning.
But no, like it made me think of when Jesus is talking and he tells people to turn the other cheek. Like, contextually speaking, there's theories around there of exactly what that means. Is he saying, hey, you get punched once, just let him hit you again? Like, we need to submit. But culturally speaking, like, there's a theory that he meant, it's complicated, but basically it means like, you're not going to treat me this poorly again. It's kind of the opposite of our understanding of it, because you would only hit people on one side of the cheek with your right hand. And so when you turn the other cheek, they would have to use their weak hand to slap you. Like, it's a little confusing on what it might be alluding to. But the theory is he's not saying just, roll over and let people beat you up.
Right.
He's saying, like stand up and say, like, you're not going to treat me less than human. We are all human. And so for me, it kind of was a callback to that, hearing Gwen's story of like, oh yeah, like in that moment, she didn't turn the other cheek when the professor, treated her like a quote unquote low IQ person. Like that's awful. She stood her ground and she said, you're not going to treat me less than human. There's this quiet confidence, humility.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. And I think a lot of us can lean into that more.
It was really her coming into her identity of
Yeah.
who God made her, and like accepting that. Like, 'cause she had this narrative, like she said, that she was stupid, that she was worthless, that she was gonna be crazy, and then like that was a moment, I think, for her of like, I'm not. Like, God made me a brilliant person, and I'm owning that.
Yeah.
And so, but in humility and in like everything too. And I think there's something beautiful about that when we're able to come into and accept who God really made us and not believing the narrative around us and the lies.
Yeah.
It's really good. Before we wrap up, any last thoughts about actual like series content? Any last things you wanted to say?
I mean, I thought it was a great series.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's kind of neat how series work because you come up with the idea. And I remember thinking the first place I thought about this series was McDonald's.
Oh.
McDonald's was the first place that actually started the phrase "Welcome back." When you pulled into the drive-thru, "Welcome back," and I'm like, I feel seen at a fast food place.
How did you know I was here earlier today?
Like, no way. You saw me an hour ago? You know,
Another Egg McMuffin, please.
That's like the people always say, I never go to McDonald's, but there's billions of people that eat it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The proof is in the data.
Right.
It's pretty good.
But it's like this welcome back, and I agree with you. There's something emotional about it's a prodigal son feel.
Oh, man.
You know? Like, that's the return home. After I blatantly messed up, I get to return home. That's the message.
That's beautiful.
You know? And I feel like that's what we're desperately needing more and more to hear today is more about how am I returning home, you know? And I feel like that's what we got to see in Gwen's story. As she even said, she's 75, and who she became came out of all of that.
Yeah.
And it's like we found the thing that, like, I heard her story several times now with Staff Church and stuff, and the thing that stuck in my mind is that happened in a Christian home.
Yeah.
Man.
That was a Christian home. And so that's, as a pastor, I've always thought through, you have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. You don't. And it's people that profess a lot, you know, can be the most challenging places, you know, and we just have no clue. So that's what I feel like this piece is not biased to any prestige.
Yeah.
It's not biased to any type of way of life. It's just biased to being authentically you, understanding who God is. And that's the cool part.
Yeah.
Well said. I would like actually to end on a fun note.
Ooh.
So I don't have a question.
He just wants to throw out an idea.
You guys
Do
are gonna
something
have to
fun.
do something fun. 'Cause
Fun
you're
time.
more fun than I am.
Anybody else have stories about roadkill?
But no, absolutely
No.
not. No. I actually do, but no.
I got a good one.
Great.
No.
I helped my buddy
please.
move one time to Grand Rapids, and I drove his car for him, and I hit every roadkill. It was a 2-hour drive. I made sure to hit every dead animal in
my
his
gosh.
car. And it
That's
smelled
fun.
horrible.
That's
was fun.
unpleasant.
Yeah. A lot of
Sorry.
raccoons.
Yeah.
Golly, this needs
Merry
to be
Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Right, that's a great note.
Yeah.
No, something Christmas related. Like
It
how we
happened
have,
on Christmas.
Stop. Like how we do brain breaks. So we'll just end with a brain break, a fun Christmas brain break.
All right.
Anybody have one?
Throwing it out there.
I mean, there's the generic, like, what's the worst present you've ever gotten? But I don't know.
Worst present?
Sure, why not?
All right. Worst present I ever got for Christmas.
Ooh, I hope my dad doesn't listen to this.
I was just about to say something. I was like, ooh, if my mom listens. Yeah, I got boxes once.
Boxes?
Yeah, they were like Americana boxes. Okay, don't judge me. My bedroom growing up was like all Americana stuff, like
What does that mean?
American flag. Like I have a 48-star flag that was hanging
bless
up.
you.
It's fine. But my mom got me boxes. Like I was like 15 or something, and I got boxes that were decorative.
Oh.
It's still a running joke of
That's hilarious.
my
She got
brother
you
will be like,
empty
"Oh, you got
boxes."
boxes." Like I'm like, yeah, like that was hands down my worst gift.
Interesting.
Like that was not purposely a worst gift. Yeah.
Mine, hands down. So I've always been an angry person. It's hard to contain anger sometimes. And if you got a gift from my aunt, it was the worst because it was always re-gifts. You know, guarantee 100%. It was all the stuff around her house that she put into this box.
She just doesn't want anymore.
And it was like 50 things. So when you open it up, it was like trinkets and all this crap.
Gross.
Like literally, I would take that box home and throw it away.
Right.
You know, 'cause
right.
it was just junk.
Yeah.
I hated that. And then you had to stand there and be like, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. So I didn't have a good poker face in those situations.
Yeah.
So by far, did not look forward to that.
It's a bummer.
The only one that comes to my mind, because I usually forget that life happens. Might need to talk to my therapist about that.
ADD, it's back.
It's back. So this was actually a few Christmases ago. So now that we're all of my siblings are adults, we do Secret Santa. So like we get a name and we just get buy gifts for one person instead of having to get a little thing for everybody. We just have like a budget. We just get gifts for the one person. So my dad had me this year, and he's not going to listen to this.
This year?
No, this year that this
happened.
happened. The year that this happened. Actually, he does have me this year as well. So
How do you know?
because
We're Secret Santa.
Detective
Not so secret.
yeah. And so on my Christmas list, do you know what Funko Pops are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funkos?
Never heard of
Those big
Are you for real?
little
Funko Pop?
statues.
Funko?
Yeah, with
The
like
little
the-
like vinyl statuettes of like characters. There's like
Ant-Man,
Disney,
there's
Marvel,
cartoon characters.
anime,
What are they
like
called?
Funko, Funko.
Wow, that's up there with microfiche.
Yeah.
It might be just because you're old.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, so I had like a few of them on there because I was like, hey, pick one. Any of these will do because I like these characters. He decided that it would be a great idea to get all of them and then one and then like extra ones that I didn't have on my list that he thought I would like, but I didn't like them. Really hope he doesn't listen to this.
What were the ones you didn't like?
I wanted the Harry Potter characters, but just like in their original like form. But he got me a Harry Potter and then another Harry Potter that had a different like outfit. But I didn't want other outfits. I just wanted normal Harry Potter.
Sure.
What a barbarian.
As one does.
No, what an awful human! How dare he?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just got a bunch of Funkos that year instead of, I don't know, books.
I'm sorry for those gifts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big like
Yeah.
like it was easy for me to be like, oh, cool, great. Like I put them on my shelf, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have no idea. Truly,
Really?
I don't know. Like I tried racking my brain for you. Like I don't.
You've had
know.
no bad gifts.
I don't.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or you
a
just
good-
not
What it-
care, like apathy.
Yeah, probably more
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like I tried racking my brain for
Sure.
like something I hated.
Yeah.
But so I thought of like a little funny story, and that was my parents got my brother and I a Nintendo 64. When I was in like, fourth grade. I
Yeah.
think.
007?
We never had 007,
Oh, that was a
but
good one.
but
Classic.
like maybe a year later or something, my mom got me this Spider-Man game for it.
Mm.
And so I went into the basement knowing I asked for it. I found it before Christmas, and I opened up the box,
Yeah.
I pulled the
Oh,
game
you
out, sealed
actually-
the box. I was like playing it in my bedroom
Oh my
a ton
gosh.
before Christmas, and then I put it back on Christmas Day. I'm like, no way.
I've
come
never
so
played
far
this
ahead.
ever.
I don't know.
I'm already
No,
level
I didn't
30.
have like a bad gift. I couldn't think of one.
That's hilarious.
Courtney, do
Interesting.
you have a bad gift?
Boxes.
Boxes.
Oh, boxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
ADD's
He
back.
would love boxes. That's why he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, boxes.
Oh
are so
yeah,
great.
huge
Please
fan.
bring
Great thing.
Yeah.
Pastor Nate some boxes.
Yeah.
Yes, empty
for
boxes.
Christmas.
Empty
Yeah.
boxes.
'Cause I'm moving.
Americana.
Yes.
Decorative boxes.
Americana.
That's hilarious. Well, this I think wraps up our bonus Christmas episode. We're so glad that you decided to join us.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler. Oh, you beat me to it. Merry Chrysler.
That
Have a
one's
good-
for the millennials and
Yes.
Gen Zers.
Millennials, yes.
Shout out.
Shout out. All right. Have a great Christmas, everyone. See you in season 3 next year.